Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine Zhu. I'm the founder of For a Safer Space. I am so honored and glad to invite my friend Metidah here today to talk about FGM, to raise awareness around FGM, and she will be educating us on this matter. I'm so super excited to have her here. So before we get into today's educational workshop, I will do a little bit of advertisement here. So this is my nonprofit For a Safer Space. For a Safer Space is a social enterprise that is a not-for-profit social enterprise that is registered in Canada, and we focuses on human rights advocacy. Especially, we recognize that access to mental health care is a fundamental human right. So that's why our not-for-profit has a mental health platform right now for people who need to seek help from mental health professionals. So this is our website, forsaferspace.org, as you can see here. And we are a registered Canadian nonprofit social enterprise that supports accessible, anti-oppressive and affirming mental health care. And for help seekers, you can find therapists from different categories. And for therapists, you can contact us and to get listed on our mental health platform. And our mission is to promote affordable, accessible, and identity-affirming mental health care with this platform. And our platform is completely free because we want to uplift the traditionally marginalized identities and harness the power of technology to promote human connection. And here are some of the frequently asked questions. You can take a look if you have time, and we have some resources to help people. We have resources for coping with COVID-19, because COVID-19 is a very unprecedented pandemic in human history, and we want to help. And we have some glossary that is originally crafted by our social work interns and our program manager and myself. So we created it and we drafted it. And so these are all original wording from For a Safer Space. So please take a look if you have any questions about, oh, what does it mean? What does some certain psychotherapy terminologies mean? Please take a look. We have tons of terminologies explained here. And after that, and we have some online resources for you to cope with this unprecedented time. We have crisis and suicide hotlines. We have anxiety, stress, mood disorder hotline or organizations listed here. And also we have peer support and forums, the resources that's listed here. So yeah, feel free to browse this website to find the resources that you need. If you cannot find what you're looking for on this website, feel free to email forsaferspace@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so that's my part. So with no further ado, let's welcome Metidah, my dear friend. Thank you so much for coming. And Metidah, why don't you introduce yourself? You've done so much around this important social issues. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Catherine. Before I go, I'll just say congratulations. I am so very proud of you and like all that you do. So yeah, congrats, keep it up. So I am Metidah. I am from the Gambia, West Africa. I am an activist, a feminist activist. I identify with and I've been in the field of activism, let's say, for quite a while now, since my probably teen years. So yeah, it's been for a very long time now, and I believe in equality. I am, just like like you and many others, like I am so against inequalities of all forms, especially those pertaining to women and girls, and everyone else that is impacted in one way or the other. So my work has been related to female genital mutilation, to women's political representation and participation. I also, work in both non-governmental and community-based organizations in the Gambia. So yeah, Gambia, Senegal mainly, but yeah. That's
And
who I am, I guess.
yeah, and you've been working with a lot of international organizations, right? As external advisor, I remember.
Yes, so like I worked as a gender specialist in it's an international organization. Like it used to be Concern Universal, now it is United Purpose. So my work was mainly in Gambia and Senegal. I focused on again ensuring that women's voices, their interests, their needs or experiences are integrated into the projects that we were implementing at the time. So yes, I worked there for some time before moving to Canada.
Thank you so much for your introduction. Okay, so would you like to share your screen and to
Yes,
get this meaningful and educational workshop started?
sure, yeah. Let's see. Excuse whatever. Perhaps it might be very unorganized. I work on this
Okay.
last minute, but yeah. So this is it. First of all, today is International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, and that means a lot to me. It's a day that I felt like we have to talk about these issues. I mean, the discussion has to be everyday thing, but days like today are very unique, just to remind ourselves, to recommit ourselves, to push and put pressure on our governments and organizations, of course, to ensure that every girl, every woman's right is protected and that they are not subjected to female genital mutilation. And of course, those like me who already went through female genital mutilation have services that could address their needs. Is it okay? And me too. Okay. Okay, so before going further, because it's important for us to look at what female genital mutilation is when we talk about that. I understand that not everyone might know about female genital mutilation, might even understand its dynamics and everything. So how do we define female genital mutilation? This is the definition from WHO. So according to WHO, is like female genital mutilation is all procedures involving partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injury to the female genital organs for non-therapeutic reasons. So it's like an operation done on women and girls for non-medical reasons. It's just for some sociocultural reasons. So according to WHO, female genital mutilation, or I'll just say they classified female genital mutilation into 4 types. The main types are 3, type 1, type 2, and type 3. Those are basically the main ones. And the type 1 is sometimes called circumcision, which consists in the removal of the prepuce with or without the excision of part or the entire clitoris. So some might even refer to it as clitoridectomy. There is also type 2, which is the excision consisting in removal of the prepuce and the clitoris, along with partial or total excision of the labia minora. So again, for some, you might not only have the clitoris taken away, but it might also include the prepuce taken away and part of the majora or the minora. And the type 3 actually is perhaps one of the most serious types. I can say type 1 is not serious. I consider FGM in all forms as like dangerous, as serious. However, type 3 is to another level, if I may put it. So that is referred to as infibulation. So it might consist of partial or total removal of the external female genitalia. So sometimes they might entirely remove the clitoris, the majora, the minora, and just stitch, whatever, just the skin together, for healing to take place. But in some instances also, it might just involve like having the two or the genitalia, the entire vulva, like stitched together, leaving little hold for either menstrual flow or urine passage. However, in some communities, the clitoris might be removed, and then the vagina might be sealed, just so that there is no sexual penetration. So that might also be referred to as type 3. So for the last one, which is the fourth type, it is unclassified. It might involve like different forms, including pricking of the genitalia and other forms. So to continue, why do people practice female genital mutilation? There might be various reasons. Depending on the country one is from, or even within the country, it might depend on the tribe one is from. It might depend on the region one is from. So this is not exclusive. However, it is to say that some of the main reasons that I have highlighted here are given as like as ways why or reasons why people practice it. For many, it is a rite of passage into womanhood, that a girl is not yet a woman unless and until they undergo female genital mutilation. For others, it might be reasons for purification, that if you are not mutilated, you are considered not pure enough. So you have to undergo that process to ensure that you are purified. For others, it might be some social issues such as marriageability, virginity preservation, and related things. So for some, if you are not mutilated or if you're uncircumcised, it is going to be hard for you to fit in a community where people practice female genital mutilation. So in the Gambia, for instance, not every tribe practices female genital mutilation. However, majority of people do practice it. But for instance, if someone from a non-practicing community settled in a practicing community, it's going to be very hard for them if the person don't practice female genital mutilation. The stigma involved and all other social shame that the person might go through. So for many people, these are some of the reasons, even if it is not practiced within your tribe or your immediate community, you still want to do it because of like the social circumstances that surround you. So for others also, like, the issue of promiscuity, it's like if you are not circumcised, it's going to be hard. That's again, it is a belief, right? If you are not circumcised, it's going to be hard for you to control your sexual pleasure. So this is why, because in my community, for instance, the issue of virginity is very critical, is considered really, an important part of the culture. So if a girl is, for instance, not circumcised, it is believed that, they might bring shame to the family, because at the end of the day, they might have an extramarital sexual relationship, and that might bring shame to, the family or the community in which the girl lives. So for many, female genital mutilation is practiced to ensure that girls are able to so-called keep their virginity. It's not the reality as we've seen or experienced, but these are some of the reasons, as I say, why some people practice female genital mutilation. Catherine, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, really good to see you.
Do you want me to pop on the
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be so happy, because I don't want it to feel like, I'm just talking to myself. And
Sure, yeah, of course. I just don't want to steal your spotlight, but if that's
no,
what you want
not at all, please.
Okay, here I am.
It's good to see your face. Then I know that, I'm talking with someone.
Yeah. Okay, here I am.
Thank you. So again, like the complications of female genital mutilation, there are different complications. There are many multiples. And what I am just stating here are some of the many complications. And again, it also differ from one individual to another, just like, we are different, at all levels. So these are some of the main complications that, is mostly linked to the practice of female genital mutilation. And they might be either immediate, short or long-term complications. So some of the immediate complications I talk about, which are like physical. The first thing I talk about is pain, excruciating pain. So a part of you is being mutilated, a part of you, and one of the most sensitive part of your physique is being mutilated, not under any anesthesia, not under any so the pain is just excruciating. It's like you're pinned down, and like, with strong women helping around, and then your clitoris, or like the other parts, as I said, your genitalia is mutilated. So obviously the first thing that most of us remember is the pain that comes with it, and the shock, perhaps as a result of the pain, and like just with everything going on, you experience shock for some people. And also like urine retention is also another common problem of female genital mutilation, because like with raw wound, not many people would want to pass urine, right? It's very painful, so people tend to keep it, which is also detrimental, as we will be talking about it in the long run, as some of the long-term complications. So urine retention is one problem that seriously impact many people who experience female genital mutilation. Hemorrhage, of course, like bleeding, a fresh part of you, especially something like around your genitalia with so many nerve endings, when it is cut, it's so hard. And the person who is doing this operation is not somebody who understands very well, like scientifically, I mean, the anatomy. So most likely the person might even touch the wrong nerve. Not to say that like doctors should operate it, because we have seen medicalization is not okay at all levels, but just to say this is also another problem associated with the practice of female genital mutilation. Okay, so from that, some of the long-term complications, again, like let's talk about sex wolf, for instance. It affects the sex life of women and girls. So even though the clitoris that is being chopped is not the only sensitive sexual organ within the female body, you have all the other internal parts of the woman that could really help. However, the clitoris plays a critical role in giving pleasure to the woman. For many, the clitoris is what they use first, of course, to kind of like lubricate themselves and all that not. Of course, in relation to other parts of the body. So when the clitoris is cut, with that, often it creates a scar. And with the physical pain, with the scar, all that, like whenever you are having a sexual relationship, you are reminded of everything that you experience as a result of your culture. You're also reminded of the pain, for instance. But more than that, it's like an entire clitoris is taken from you, which is a critical part of your sexual life. So that obviously like tend to affect so many women who experience or are subjected to female genital mutilation. And based on this, right now, there's this conversation. It has been there for quite a while, but it's like people move from one corrosive thing to another. So women who are, for instance, married or in relationship, they always want to not only satisfy themselves, obviously, but their partner as well. So in doing so, people tend to use some very corrosive like lubricants that they try to insert just to make sure that they're able to give themselves and also their partner's sexual pleasure, which is a serious human rights issue. This is why I am looking at female genital mutilation as a serious human rights violation, because looking at everything that goes wrong with it, it's definitely not okay. Another thing is the psychological or psychosocial aspect of it, the long-term trauma that people who are subjected to female genital mutilation can experience, the depression, the isolation, divorces in certain instances. Because, for instance, if you are not into sex or something, which is also like marriage is a fundamental part of my culture, for instance. This is just how they see it. It's like you need to get married kind of thing. And you're in a relationship that you are not happy, not that like you are not being able to do other things, but because maybe like you cannot have good sex, you cannot enjoy sex, or like your partner is not satisfied with you, and eventually there is a divorce or something. So FGM could be a contributing factor to all that. But the trauma, especially, like I said, maybe even if the practice is done on you when you were like very young, when you grow older and you started experiencing all these things, then you reflect back, you know that this is not supposed to be your experience. This is not supposed to be your life. It's not something that is okay. However, it was done on you without your consent, obviously. And then you are now going through this with everything. So it has a very serious trauma effect on the people that experience it. However, there are other issues such as sexually transmitted diseases or infections, if you would call it. This might include HIV and AIDS. Like before, although now they've kind of like shift from the instruments or using just one instrument for hundreds of like girls. Now it's like one instrument or blade knife, whatever, to a girl. However, before, this was the norm. So imagine if one person has HIV and AIDS or an STI, another form of STI, there is likelihood that like so many other girls are going to contract this infection. So that is also a larger part of it. And also like urinary tract infection, because of the urine retention and like some other influencing factors, girls or like women might end up having this. And sometimes like these STIs might even lead to women not being able to bear children. Because for instance, if you have an STI that is untreated because maybe you don't even know about it, and it happened to grow and maybe block your fallopian tubes, it might have some serious fertility issues, even though ironically in some communities or cultures, it is believed that once female genital mutilation is operated or like conducted on girls, they are most likely going to have children. So fertility issues in some communities is also some of the reasons. However, this is like a counter reality in some instances. Other complications include fistula. It might be the vesicovaginal fistula or the rectovaginal fistula. These sometimes, it's not as common, honestly, in the Gambia, according to the data that we have so far. However, there are girls or women who experienced it, especially for the fact that in most of these countries that female genital mutilation is highly practiced, the problem is like often these are like low income communities where like healthcare is not as advanced. So imagine a woman having to give birth with all the complications as a result of female genital mutilation and happen to not have the supervision of like a qualified medical practitioner. What is likely to happen is like this mother might have a very bad tear, and this could seriously affect it. It might again have be a rectovaginal fistula, or it might be lead to a vesicovaginal fistula, where so far it's not treated, at least in my country, and it's the reality for some women. Of course, again, it's not very common, but it is a risk factor for female genital mutilation. So childbirth, again, I talk about, you know, that complication. Sometimes for some women, it might, data has shown that like for some women, they might have prolonged labor as a result of female genital mutilation, because again, whether it might be the type 1, the type 2, or the type 3. Let's say, for instance, it's the type 1, which some people think it's like, you know, not very bad. It's just like chopping the clitoris. But again, let's say there is a scar that this leaves. And for some people, they might even have keloid, you know. So if that is formed around the genitalia, where is the baby going to come out from? And in most of these communities, including, of course, in my own areas, we don't have health facility is not as strong as you might think about it in some other parts of the world. So imagine a woman having to go through that without any access to, let's say, safe cesarean section, because sometimes they would say it's available, one depending on which community you are in. If you don't have, transportation might be a problem. Sometimes you go to the hospital, electricity is a problem. Like we have right now, we have strong conversations regarding maternal mortality in the country. So I cannot boldly say female genital mutilation is a high factor, but what is safe to say is like, it could be a contributing factor. So yes, these are just some of the complications that I want to share. And again, I wanted to say I'm not a health expert at all, but yeah, based on my advocacy and grassroots mobilization, I am able to get some of the issues that female genital mutilation could result in. So in the beginning, I said today is International Day of Zero Tolerance against female genital mutilation. And in my country, like I said, it is outlawed, still problem, a very a deep problematic issue. But I wanted to say I am here in Canada, and there are many like me. I went through, I was subjected to female genital mutilation again, I would say. There are many like me in these communities. What can we do? It's not enough to say, oh, poor girl, I'm sorry, what a barbaric culture. You know, these are issues that we definitely need to confront. Because again, it's not about my culture, it's about what is done to me and what can we do to not only eliminate the practice, but to ensure that there are services for people who experience it. So I said, although female genital mutilation is outlawed in many practicing countries, including the Gambia, of course, which is my country, it is still widespread, especially during this pandemic, just like any other form of like violence against women and like people who like are either racialized or like people who are like at risk. Female genital mutilation is also on the increase, especially during this moment where girls live with their parents. Like I said, in my country, it is now outlawed in 2016, I guess, still very recent. However, people are practicing it because we don't have that political will to say, if you do this, there is no compromise. Like, we're just going to make sure that law takes its due course. No, that's not what is being done. So it's like, now that girls are living with their parents, they're using this moment as an opportunity to mutilate girls. So we have seen high prevalence of female genital mutilation during this time. But also, its complete elimination, as I stated earlier, requires not only a local approach, but global commitment to the protection of the human rights of girls and women, especially those pertaining to their sexual and reproductive health rights. So it's not enough to say, it's let's say an African problem. It's not enough to say, okay, you know what, this is a Middle East problem. This is to kind of like orient people or just order them. It's happening in their communities. It is not our problem. We are better. We are civilized. We are not doing this. It becomes problematic when we look at it from that perspective. However, yes, I am Gambian, for instance, but I am here in Canada today, right? And I require services. So if we approach it as an international crisis, as a problem, as an international human rights issue, then we become very strategic in how we address female genital mutilation. And this is how I wanted the world to look at female genital mutilation, not about Africa versus Europe, Africa versus America, North America, Africa versus, or like other practicing communities as in Middle East or some parts of Asia. It's a global issue. It's a global crisis. It is a global human rights issue against our girls and women. Let's look at it from that perspective or through that lens and just do something, act, in ways that will help its total or complete elimination. So again, I said that might not be possible if there is no investment. So investment is a critical perspective, is a critical aspect rather, for the elimination of female genital mutilation, both in the practicing communities and non-practicing communities where you have people that experience female genital mutilation. So that is definitely important. So for instance, I also wanted to, I can't help but say this, in Canada and other countries with immigrants from practicing communities, I have some suggestions. Right. So survivors of female genital mutilation should be treated with respect and dignity. Again, I said this earlier. It cannot be, it is their problem, or it is a barbaric culture, or it is this. It's just to know that I am a human being first, and my human dignity should be accorded to me regardless of what my culture says or what my culture did or what form of practice that I might have been subjected to as a girl, as a little girl, or as a baby for some girls or women. So that should definitely be on the top of our list first. And again, like people that experience female genital mutilation should have access to services such as survivor, victim-centered, and trauma-informed counseling services. These are very critical. Again, I'll just re-emphasize this. Canada is a very diverse society. It's a society where you have people from different parts of the world in so many practicing countries. Or so many countries, people are here from different countries where FGM is being practiced. So if they don't have access to services, it becomes problematic for them to even open up, because knowing that even when I do, I'll just be looked at as someone who is from, and I'm sorry culture, or I'm sorry background, but nothing will be done. It's like I will just be othered based on what I experienced as a person, but not looked at, from that human rights perspective to ensure that the services that I require are given to me. So providing these services are critical, but not just any service, a service that is informed on someone's experience, a service that is informed on a trauma-centered or informed experience. So these are very critical, and I think we need to have, the next point looks at that. The OBGYNs especially should have a critical understanding of female genital mutilation. And they should also be sensitive to the plight and experiences rather of people that underwent female genital mutilation. Again, especially, let's say I am mutilated, and then I visit a psychologist. Not a psychologist, sorry, a gynecologist. Sorry. So if I visit a gynecologist and realize that my experiences, my pain my plight in general, you know, it's not something that mattered much to the person, the expert who is, you know, attending to me. It becomes problematic for me to open up. And I kind of served as a committee member in one female genital mutilation project here. And we were looking at some of these things because I think it's really critical that we have people who are well experienced. So people have different bad experiences in terms of, like, you know, um, reaching out to get services from specialized gynecologists, right? And it's not okay to go to somebody who do not only understand but also use, like, your case as a very problematic thing without much support or providing much resources. But instead of, like, providing these resources, you're just like, oh, you know, I'm sorry. Or sometimes it's like, how could anybody do this? Like, you know, so I think, like, gynecologists especially, or the OBGYNs, should understand that yes, this is the ideal genitalia. However, not every genital will be that way, based on people's lived experiences, based on, you know, people's cultural backgrounds and all that. Not so it's good that, like, we have these conversations and, you know, the experts get to understand how female genital mutilation affects women, and, like, be able to provide services that are going to help individuals at least cope with what they went through. And also, one critical thing I wanted to say, anywhere, this is going to be something that I definitely want to push to the government. And whoever can help me do this, it is so very welcome. Not every person who experienced female genital mutilation, of course, want a reconstruction service or a reversal service. However, there are people who want to have the issue reversed. This is not covered by OHIP. If today, for instance, if I want to, I am expected to pay it out of pocket. I'm not financially strong to do that. So we are saying, if other people can have access to, can have OHIP cover parts of, or maybe entire, let's say, sexuality related matters, it's good that we have the OHIP for people who want to reverse their female genital mutilation experience. And that is very possible, but unless, like, we do that hard advocacy work to make sure that, you know, the OHIP rather covers that, it's going to be very difficult for people who are subjected to female genital mutilation to have the reconstruction done. So this is, like, a critical part of our lives, and then we want to keep pushing for that and pushing for investment in communities that experience female genital mutilation, and make sure that, you know, they have services to meet their needs. So again, I don't intend it to be a very long, boring presentation. I just want to make sure that, you know, some critical aspects of female genital mutilation are definitely highlighted, especially for days like today. So thank you so much, Katrina. And if you have any question or questions, share. I hope I made sense anyway.
Thank you so much for giving us this awesome presentation. You give us an overview of the issue and how we can eliminate this issue potentially, and what can we do in Canada. Thank you so much for this awesome presentation. And I do hope that one day OHIP will cover the reconstruction for reversal candidates, because it's so important to support people both emotionally and financially and physically too.
Indeed.
Right. So I hope that one day this day will come. And also I noticed that you posted something on Instagram today. So you said, I will just say it out loud. You said an FGM free world requires global commitment, investment, and political will to protect women and girls and have their interests at all levels of political and socioeconomic development. This is such a great quote. Could you please extend on that? Please tell us more about what you mean by this quote.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
this was written by your own, right? So I want to
Yeah.
know more.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about it. Like from last night, I was like, I think I was like a little bit like emotional. Like I said, I attempted recording this and I was like, oh, I'm talking to myself and I am reminded myself of everything. And it was a little bit hard. And I was like, what can we do? It's like, I thought it's like, we are tired of just hearing, oh, FGM, we have to make sure it is eliminated. We have to make sure it is this. But what can we do? And again, like this idea of like it being just like a distant practice, that it's not so close, that it is, let's say, an African problem, or it is a problem of like, let's say, the Middle East or some parts of Asia that practice it. So for me, it has to have like that global approach to it. And in that, like I said, investment is a critical perspective because female genital mutilation, like I discussed earlier, is a human rights issue. And it has to be approached that way. And again, like we have to look at it from that holistic perspective too, right? Investment is critical. But again, like there has to be political will. And if I say political will, like having policies is very critical, but ensuring that these policies are implemented to the letter is one big issue right now, for FGM and so many other related issues. So I definitely think that when we have the political will, when we have the investments, and we make sure that whatever, in whatever way, be it the socio-economic developments, be it like the other political spheres of people's life, we ensure that, God's interests are at the center, that female genital mutilation and other related issues that people go through are really given that much attention that it deserves. So I was looking at it from that perspective. And global leaders, like I just want them to commit to this and not just other, people who practice it. But look at it from that holistic perspective, that yes, if it was practiced to me in the Gambia today, I am in Canada. Somebody else is might also be impacted in a different country, in a different region, for instance. And it becomes an obligation of the country in which they find themselves to help them through that process. So if we look at it from that approach, then we will really strategize, look for ways to address it, I think. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining that to us. And thank you so much for joining Fast and me today on this International Day of Zero Tolerance for FGM. I really appreciate you coming here today and recording this session with me. And we've been knowing each other for, I think, for 4 years right now, right? Since the Women Gender Studies program.
Yeah.
And and we've been friends since then. And I really appreciate our friendship through these years. And I'm so glad that you can come today and give us this education workshop. Thank you so much, Metidah. So
Thank you.
before we end today's recording, and thank you very much, do you have anything else that you want to say to us, or any quote you want to share, or any like last minute, like kind of inspiring proverbs that you want to share with like all of us who are watching the video right now?
So like right now, I believe in Audre quotation so much that it has become a part of me, that I am not free whilst any woman isn't free, even when her circles are very different from my own. Even before seeing this, like coming in contact with Lord's Code, this has been my drive for a very long time. That's just I think why I am really dedicated, because if I see somebody else suffer, it doesn't matter what color they are, it doesn't matter to me what status, so-called class or like status they are. To me, it's a human being. And I want us to look at people as human beings first and ensure that, you know, we are able to contribute our quota. And we all can do something. If this small girl from a small village in the Gambia, Gambia, my country, is a very small country, and I am from one of the tiniest communities from the Gambia. If I can, if my voice can create at least a change or can change somebody's perspective, even if it is opposing, I think definitely any one of us with, you know, so many other privileges and power and influence obviously can do a lot. So, you know, let's join together. And thank you, Catherine. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all the support. And I will be here anytime at any moment that you need me.
Thank you. And the same to you too. The feelings mutual. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Let me end the recording right now.
Okay.
Sorry, let me. Oh, where is the option?